Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about home care for the elderly, and specifically, a system that often forces its carers to race against the clock, making some truly impossible choices. We're going to explore why a system that was designed to give people more choice might actually be failing some of our most vulnerable. So let's just dive right in. This question, a dignified old age, a utopia? It comes from a temporary home care worker who saw the whole system from the inside. And it's a powerful one, isn't it? Is giving someone a dignified old age something we can actually achieve, or has it just become a fantasy? That question is really at the heart of everything we're going to look at today. To really get what's going on here, we have to see it through the eyes of the people who are living this every single day. We're talking about the carers on the front line. Their experience? Well, it reveals some deep cracks in the foundation of this system. I mean, for so many of these carers, their daily reality isn't just a job. It's an absolutely frantic race against time. We're talking about forgotten alarms, immense stress, and being constantly watched through a mobile app that tracks their every move. Carers talk about this culture of fear, where if you speak out, you could lose your job. And all this while trying to follow schedules that are, to put it mildly, completely impossible. So, how do these impossible schedules even happen? Let's look at a pretty stark example that one carer documented. The task itself seems simple enough, right? Just get from one client's home to the next. The distance between these two clients is 450 meters. I mean, that's a perfectly walkable distance, nothing crazy. But here's the catch. The official schedule allows 2 minutes for that journey. 2 minutes to travel 450 meters. You'd basically need to be an Olympic sprinter to make that happen, not a care worker walking between apartment buildings. Which, leads to the question that any sane person would ask. How is that even possible? The system on paper is literally demanding the physically impossible from its workers, day in and day out. And this impossible timing puts carers in a terrible position every single day. They're forced to make these heartbreaking choices. Do you cut a visit short with one person, maybe leaving them in a dirty diaper, just so you can get to the next person in time to give them a hot meal? These are the kinds of moral compromises they're facing constantly. All this pressure has led to this workaround known as stealing minutes. To even have a chance of making the schedule work, at least on paper, carers feel forced to log into their next visit on their phone while they're still walking or driving there. They essentially have to steal care time from one person just to have enough travel time to get to the next. Okay, so this is just chaos on the ground, right? But why? Why is the system set up like this in the first place? To get that, we need to zoom out from the individual carer and look at the bigger picture, at the logic of the whole thing. So a lot of these systems, like the one in Stockholm, are built around a free market idea. The whole point is to give people choice. The elderly and their families can pick from a bunch of different private companies. I mean, in just one area, you could have up to 19 different home care providers all competing for the same clients. But all that choice has this huge unintended consequence. It's called the crisscross effect. Picture a street. The person in house number 1 uses company A, but their next door neighbor at number 3, they use company B. So you end up with all these cars from different companies driving up and down the same roads. It's a logistical nightmare. And when you actually talk to the carers, when you ask them what makes this incredibly stressful job worth it, the answer is always the same. It's the people. It's the meetings, those moments of real human connection with the people they're looking after. But the system, it doesn't really have a way to measure that human connection. What it does measure is something else entirely. There's a Swedish word for it, vindrutetid. It literally means windshield time. And it's exactly what it sounds like. All that time spent just driving. Unpaid time, by the way. That's a direct result of that crisscross mess we just talked about. So, who's paying for all this inefficiency? This is the crucial part. The city, or the municipality, they only pay the company for the time spent actually with the client. All that windshield time, the private company has to eat that cost. And that puts them under enormous pressure to squeeze every last second out of the schedule. So now we can see the full circle, right? We have this inefficient system that's putting a huge financial squeeze on the companies. Let's connect that cold, hard logic back to the human cost we started with. Because this is where what's on paper just smashes into reality. Because this whole situation creates two totally different realities. On paper, everything looks great. A client, let's call him Ghosta, he's supposed to get 13 minutes of care, and the system logs show, yep, 13 minutes, check. But what really happened? The carer, trying to beat that impossible clock, had to steal 4 of those minutes just for travel time. So the schedule looks perfect, but the actual care, it's compromised. So with this huge disconnect between paper and reality, you have to ask, is anyone trying to fix this? Well, the city of Stockholm says, yes, we see the problem, and we're trying to change. So officially, they're saying things like cares can't be planned behind a desk. They've gotten rid of that rigid minute-by-minute scheduling. Instead, they're bringing in something called framework time to give carers more flexibility. The idea is to let the carers on the ground use their own judgment. But, and it's a big but, they're keeping that mobile time tracking system, they say, to stop private companies from committing fraud. But even with these changes, you can feel the frustration on the ground is still just immense. As one carer put it, looking at the people making these decisions, that they aren't ashamed. Those nameless ones, up there, it just shows this huge gulf, this feeling that the people in charge have no idea what it's really like. And really, that brings us back to the core dilemma, doesn't it? In a system with limited money and resources, what do we actually value most? Do we prioritize the freedom of choice for the consumer? Do we prioritize the lowest possible cost? Or do we prioritize giving people the time and space for real, unhurried, compassionate care? Because trying to have all 3 at the same time, well, that might be the real utopia.